Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us to the Software Testing Happy Hour. I'm your host, Brent Jenkins. Since this is our first show, I just wanted to kind of introduce everybody to the concept. So each time we're going to go with a different drinking theme along the way. This episode is local Florida beers, since we are local to Florida here at Checkpoint Technologies. And then we're just going to kind of be discussing news and trends in QA and software testing, future or recent releases of software, and just kind of give some of our recommendations of the upcoming month. So first off, I wanted to thank our sponsor, Checkpoint Technologies. Checkpoint Technologies enables organizations to deliver higher quality applications to market faster through professional services and best of breed software partnerships. So with that, I want to introduce people joining me today. First off, Sneha Cruz, you want to introduce yourself, and while you do, please let us know what kind of beers you're going to be drinking in your flight there.
Sure, great. So my name is Sneha Cruz. I am the Director of Support Services at Checkpoint Technologies. I've been in software quality assurance for about 8 years now, and that's about it. So I am drinking, and halfway done with this, which is...
We did a little pre-gaming here.
This is the Cigar City Florida Cracker, which is very local to Tampa. It's right down the road from us.
Yep.
And then I also have Florida Brewing Key West Southernmost Wheat, based out of Cape Canaveral or Key West. We're kind of unsure.
Did our research on that.
This is Big Top Brewing's Trapeze Monk. It is out of Sarasota. It's delicious, one of my favorites. I apparently drink a lot of wheat beer. I do prefer vodka, so we might do a vodka one day.
That would get sloppy.
And this is, I forgot this beer. Proof Brewing. It's a mango wit out of Tallahassee.
Nice.
I think you went backwards.
And then also thank you, Sneha. And then also joining us is Matt Kubal.
I'm Matt Kubal. I'm technical engineer with Checkpoint Technologies. I've been in QA for a little over 3 years now, and I assist Checkpoint in their support, as well as I mostly focus on automation.
And what beers are you having?
Today,
Going to the darker side of things.
Yeah, mostly dark stuff. This is the only IPL drink. It's the Cigar City High Lie. This guy here is, I guess those all look like that pretty much. I don't think you have to pick them up. That's the First Magnitude Brewing Drift Mild. Then I've got the Sea Drift Dark Harbor beer, which I can't even find on the internet.
It's a dangerous name. It's like C. diff.
And and the Swamp Head Brewery Midnight Oil, which is coffee stout.
Nice.
One of my favorites. It's good beer.
Nice. And I forgot to actually mention, so I'm drinking the Cigar City Tocobaga Red Ale right now. And then I also have the Swamp Head Stump Knocker. It's an interesting name. And then the Pinellas Ale Works Sit Amber Ale.
We totally got gypped with little cups.
Well, I got to keep you guys in line here. So I thought what would be interesting was to take some of the key notes that were found in the 2018 World Quality Report. So I'm going to kind of throw out some information to you guys and just kind of get your thoughts on that. That sound good?
Cool.
Okay. So let's start with the three key trends that are rapidly altering the dynamics of QA and testing. So what the World Quality Report found was the digital economy, including the emergence of smart devices, increased levels of automation, as well as the adoption of Agile and DevOps methodologies. I don't think that's anything new, but I just wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on that. Let's start with you, Matt.
I feel like you could write those same things for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts.
The emergence of smart devices, I don't know, I guess that's sort of obvious. And I don't know if are smart devices just emerging this year?
I think the testing of smart
Yeah,
devices
so
is probably what's
like
coming
Internet
around
of Things
The
stuff.
Internet of Things, I think, has definitely obviously been discussed for a couple of years now, but I think the idea of how to actually test them is becoming a little more,
Right.
Top of mind.
And I think you're seeing that people are actually trying to now, where before they just knew it needed to be done, but never took that approach, and now it's becoming people's objectives this year.
Right.
Coming in.
I agree.
The biggest challenge is the security.
On the Internet of Things, smart devices?
Yeah, so I guess I'm not sure how they actually test that, with 0-day exploits and stuff. that
Right.
you necessarily can. But
Yeah, and that was kind of my point when I brought up the adoption of Agile and DevOps methodologies. I mean, those are nothing new.
No.
Right.
You know, I mean, we have definitely, especially here at Checkpoint Technologies, we've noticed a major increase in interest in DevOps over the past year, and actually companies looking to implement it, which we'll dive into a little bit further. We're actually going to speak on the State of DevOps Report from Puppet in a little bit. But okay, anything else to add to those kind of key trends?
No, and I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind with automation, I always make a point to talk about this, is it's not just automated testing, it's also the automation of processes behind it.
Right.
That's a huge piece that sometimes people forget about.
Very good point. Very good point. Okay, well, moving on. So, key recommendations to focus on in 2018. So, I'm just going to read them off. You guys can kind of pick and choose what you want to speak on or comment on, anything you want to add. So, increase the level of smart test automation. Transform QA and test function to support those agile development and DevOps teams. Invest in smart test and QA platforms. Organizations need to define a test platform strategy on an enterprise level and define QA analytics strategies on an enterprise level. Anything with those recommendations?
I mean, I feel like it's all pretty standard stuff that's always been around. People have always been trying to get to these objectives. Obviously, they're just trying to do it faster and
Right.
bug-free.
Matt?
I don't know if those necessarily, like I said, it's kind of what everybody's shooting for. Automate more.
Right.
That's every year, automate more.
Right.
And I think that's, one of the things we kind of see year after year is these world quality reports and stuff. It's always the ideal scenario type information that it's giving you. We all know that's what we need to be doing. It's
Right.
just, can we actually get there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's move on then. So, current trends in QA and testing. Digital transformation. So we kind of discussed this with the three key trends, but that's speaking on the Internet of Things, mobile technology, and third-party relationships escalate testing complexity. Again, here we are with Agile and DevOps. Agile and DevOps transformation continues to put pressure on QA. I think that's kind of what you were talking about, Sneha, is the Agile and the DevOps movements shifting left, if you will. There's nothing new, but where does QA really fit into this now? Like we some of these roles we're seeing change, and how does QA really fit into those? Test automation, nothing new, but on the way to smart, intelligent, and cognitive QA.
Right.
I'll be honest,
AI.
I'm not 100% sure what that exactly means. Do you guys have anything to add on that? What smart, intelligent, and cognitive QA?
I think that's using more predictive analytics, more of the smart automation, using artificial intelligence to help build your testing, things like that. That's what I'm assuming from that.
Good point. Industrialization, how test centers of excellence adapt to the digital era. So, I mean, testing center of excellence is nothing new, but how it's adapting to that digital era. That's definitely something that's needing to be addressed.
Right, and I think that's actually something else that was noted in the quality report about, the testing center of excellence was to centralize your QA and dev teams and make sure everyone's centralized and kind of working together, where against what the collaborative aspect of Agile DevOps, you're actually decentralizing your teams though, and they're, what are they calling it, testing excellence centers? Testing excellence centers? Something like that. They were TECs, TECs.
Okay. You got the acronym. That's good enough.
Basically, everyone's centralizing within their own teams and then coming together into this larger space. So, kind of breaking it down, deconstructing it.
Right. Okay, and then next is test data management and test environment management. So, test environments and test data continue to be the Achilles heel for QA and testing. Anything to add to that?
We're seeing a lot of new developments with companies that are offering environments for people.
Exactly.
Which we may or may not be able to cover later with like Cobaton.
Yep.
Who was the other
Different
one?
mobile
a lot of
testing
mobile.
solutions.
Well,
but even
Cobaton's mobile. There's another company offering, multi-OS, multi-browser, cross-browser testing. That's
functional StormRunners having
StormRunner.
out-of-the-box
Okay.
environments
Right.
that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, we are.
So you don't have to spend so much time setting up your own environments and configuring your own
Huge
devices.
part of CD, CI,
So I was
and
about to
I
say.
think Docker's gained a lot of traction from that.
Yeah.
All these quick.
Yep. And then QA and testing budgets. So budgets in flux as changes sweep through testing. I mean, budgets that's nothing. I don't know why that's a trend. That's,
Always getting smaller.
yeah,
Always
always
getting smaller.
produce more with less.
I do think
mean,
that
that's kind
the
of the
QA, because they're trying to kind of smother it into other areas like dev and going more agile.
spreading the
DevOps.
budget around. Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Breaking it out more is how people, I think, are starting to manage budgets a little bit more creative ways, right?
Creative ways. Good point. So anything to add more than that to the 2018 World Quality Report? I mean, everybody can go and find it. It's not hard. We'll throw a link in the description to the video as well if you want to take a look at it if you haven't already gotten it.
Right.
But it's always worth a read. And it breaks down a lot of this stuff into a lot more detail. We just kind of wanted to touch on the high points, obviously.
It's really interesting to see some of the trends and how they go 2015, 2016, 2017 and see how they started weighing them every year differently.
That's true. Good point.
That's
So.
a really
Yeah, no, good point. In the World Quality Report, they do a good job of comparing year after year what the trends were and anything that changes. So, good point. All right. Well, I said we would move on to the State of DevOps Report put on by Puppet. So, I wanted to start with this. I thought this was really interesting. And actually, this statistic, I don't know if it's in the State of DevOps Report, but it actually came out of a DevOps Mastery class that we attended, Sneha and I, just recently at Atlassian, their office in Austin. But the statistic was 87% of organizations are disappointed when they first implement DevOps. Any thoughts on why?
they're doing it wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's the easy answer.
Who's to say what they're disappointed? They're not getting as much out of it as they thought they would, but they're still getting something out of it, or is it really slowing them down?
Right.
Is it just
That's a very good question.
Learning,
Right.
you're
Learning
just trying to learn?
curves or-
My assumption would be that they're not getting the return that, when you hear about DevOps, you always hear about these statistics of, 200 times more deployments and this and that. I think the disappointment is there. They're not seeing the results. But, my big takeaway from that is it's probably because they took maybe the processes of DevOps, but they didn't change their team culture or anything like that.
Huge.
Yeah.
That is so tied to the success of DevOps.
Yep. And I think a lot of that has to do like culture but getting people, you put in new processes that are going to make everything more efficient, whether on the QA department or just at an organizational level. It's all about if people are going to accept them and use them the right way.
Right.
So
Well, the other thing to consider too is anytime you're changing the whole way you do things or changing your processes, it's going to take longer to do things in the beginning, but then the end result pays off.
right.
It's no different than
and
automation. Similarly, it takes that time to write those scripts and stuff, but the
Yeah.
ROI you see on the back end once you don't have to do it or touch it
Your
anymore
man-hours are-
Right.
pays huge. So
I'd be interested to see too what stages of their first implementation of DevOps were they? Are they a month in?
right,
Like, are they a year
that's
in?
another
Are
point.
they-
Right.
Where on that spectrum are
And
they?
you also need the right people. You want a 200 times increase in releases. You need somebody that can do all the continuous integration and continuous releases, that sort
Skills,
of stuff.
yep.
You don't have somebody that can do that,
Right.
or a team that can do that.
Or train your
Then
team to
you're
get there.
in trouble.
Right.
And we're going to touch on this in a minute, but also that leadership buy-in of what needs to take place. Because
Right.
if you've got your team that are wanting to perform at this DevOps, these DevOps processes and stuff, but your leadership's still wanting to do things the old ways,
Yeah.
that's going to slow you down.
That never happens.
Right. All right, so let's bring up the key findings here and just kind of walk through those. I mean, we've already kind of started talking about this, but high performing, that's another thing. Is this 87% of organizations that are disappointed in their first implementing? They're not high performing teams. But a lot of this goes into the high performing teams that are doing it the right way. So high performing teams continue to achieve both faster throughput and better stability. Automation is a huge boon to organizations. DevOps applies to all organizations. That's one of those arguments we keep hearing is, well, yeah, but we've got all this legacy data and stuff. We can't do DevOps. Well, our organization just can't do it. Well, it's becoming more and more obvious that that's not true. It's not. DevOps can scale to the enterprise level. Look at some of these organizations that are just booming with DevOps, like the Netflixes and stuff. It really does apply. Maybe there might be some tweaking that needs to be done and stuff to the processes, but DevOps does apply to all
And your
organizations.
DevOps might not be as quick as the cycle, but you're still doing DevOps if you're
Right.
doing bug fixes, feature enhancements. I mean,
You're still
theory, that's still
shifting
DevOps,
left. Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Loosely coupled architectures and teams are the strongest predictor of continuous delivery. And then lean product management drives higher organizational performance. Anything on those?
I'm processing it.
That's all right. I read that last one and I kind of scratched my head a little.
I was actually mostly thinking of this beer that I just drank that I'd recommend nobody ever get. I might just not even drink
You can
that.
skip it. That's all right.
Yeah.
We can go grab you the rest of
I'm already
the.
done on my second one.
Here you go.
We can grab you the rest of the high
Are
lie
you
if you
gonna give me
want.
the gross one?
I forget what that was.
All right.
I think that was a mild. Whatever the second one was. Anyway, sorry.
Matt's very much
No
a
worries.
snob.
No worries.
You'll figure that out by the end of this.
I'm sure by the end of it, yeah. All right, so we'll just move on from there. I mean, again, this report breaks all that stuff down.
Right.
You can read more if you want.
And honestly, the DevOps report every year has got really cool statistics
It
in it,
really
like you
does.
said.
And I'll touch on some of those statistics at the end of
Right.
this.
And I think if you're in an organization where you're like, oh, I'm not doing DevOps, and you read it, you're gonna be like, oh, we kind of actually are a little bit. You might not be doing it necessarily in an agile way.
right,
or
you might not be doing the complete infinity loop, if you will, but you might be doing a large
Pieces
portion
of
of
it,
that and
yeah.
not even realize you are. That's a good point. So going back to that whole 87% of organizations being disappointed, I personally feel like, and this is some of the feedback I've heard a lot, is the biggest problem with that is that leadership buy-in. So how do we get leaders on board so we can make the necessary changes to truly implement DevOps into our organization? And what the State of DevOps report found was it takes that transformational leadership. I just wanted to read the definition to what they state this is. It's a model in which leaders inspire and motivate followers to achieve higher performance by appealing to their values and sense of purpose, facilitating wide-scale organizational change. And before we stop and kind of comment on that, I even broke down the 5 characteristics of what you need in that transformational leader. It talked about vision, inspirational communication, intellectual stimulation, supportive leadership, and then personal recognition. What do you guys think about that? I mean, that's, I feel like that's kind of low-hanging fruit on what you need from a leader.
Yeah.
Someone who thinks outside the box, looks at things from different angles, and hey, we've continuously seen this. How can we approach it differently?
Right. From an agile standpoint, you don't want a leader who is, got to have their fingers in every little pie. That can be a problem.
Big problem.
Part of the agile is being able to just openly discuss issues you're running into and work your way through them with your team,
And being
not
able to
necessarily
adapt.
have a manager breathing down your throat through every little
Right.
thing. And if you have somebody that doesn't have some of these characteristics, then
It's gonna be hard to-
It can be a problem.
It's going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
And just adding to that, the whole agile versus anti-fragile. You need somebody who's willing to roll with the punches and, kind of be able to, if something goes wrong, not freak out, but figure out how to get upon it.
No, it's a very good point. That continuous improvement, being anti-fragile, that's a big part of it. Setting your, and for those who don't know what being anti-fragile means, so basically the idea is, since failure is inevitable, the whole point is set your teams up to be able to absorb that failure and learn from it and recover from it quickly. To try to build your team up so we're never going to fail, we're going to do it perfect, we're going to get it right. That's not effective. That's not realistic, and you're spinning wheels that are never going to go anywhere.
Right.
So good point there. All right, so now I just wanted to touch on some of the stats that I found really impressive. Now, I will say, if you've read the State of DevOps report already, one of the things that was interesting was the statistics of the improvements between 2016 and 2017 actually dropped. But they kind of contributed that to the fact that, what are your guys' take on that?
I would say because more people are adapting it, so you're saturating
Exactly.
a market, essentially. It's not really a market, but you know what I mean? So your averages are going to come down because you have smaller companies that don't need to be doing the Amazon or Netflix style releases. They're doing
The
them at a
200
much
releases a day. Yeah.
crazy. They're doing, maybe 1 or 2 a week, but to them that's very agile compared to what they used to be. So
Yep.
I
2 a
think that's
year,
why you're seeing it's becoming more popular, more widespread.
I think one of the things too, that I was thinking about this when I took these notes down was, I think a big part of it too is to your point where you were saying earlier in the fact that a lot of people are already doing a bit of DevOps and they don't even realize it. So a lot of organizations these days have already started that process and not even known it. So when they actually become DevOps, those enhancements and stuff are not as great because they had already started doing it to begin with. They just didn't realize they were doing
Some of
it.
it's just common sense.
Yeah, exactly. So just to read off some of those statistics. In 2017, and again, this is speaking on the high performers of DevOps, so the ones that are really doing it right. 46 times more frequent code deployments. I think the 2016 was like 200 times or something ridiculous like that. 440 times faster lead time from commit to deploy. 96 times faster mean time to recover from downtime. Again, that continuous integration being anti-fragile.
And I think that number went up, didn't it?
I believe that one did.
The time to recovery is the one that went up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then 5 times lower change failure rate. So those are just some of the statistics. I know we've kind of touched quite a bit on this already. Anything else to add to the State of DevOps report?
No.
I don't think so.
But I mean, DevOps is honestly where it's going to go, right? Because customer experience, user experience is really where you're going to see everything kind of weighted next year, I think.
Yep. And I think we're going to kind of touch on that.
People
in just
want
a
things
minute.
faster and better and constantly around.
It's interesting. I was thinking about that the other day. You know, you get those automatic updates from even your operating system on your phone. And it's like, I remember anytime there was a new release of like iOS, it was such a big deal. You know, I mean, obviously the main ones are still big deals.
Right.
But all those, the ones you get, it's like every other day my phone needs to restart to get in there. And it's like, I remember it being a once a year thing, you know, and it's crazy how that's changed. All right.
That's true.
So on to the next topic. Monitoring UX will be more important than ever. I think this came from an article that I believe, Sneha, you found actually. And I'm going to read just a little bit of this and then kind of get you guys' take on that. So bearing in mind 2017's high level of major outages, I don't think the industry has been moving fast enough to address the explosive growth of the IoT and API economy. So essentially, these leading the way in achieving great things in both testing and monitoring. However, most are still disproportionately focusing on speed rather than quality, security, and resilience.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's interesting. It sounds almost contradicting to what we've been talking about, right? With DevOps. It's like, oh, you're trying to release faster, but that's where QA plays this important piece. People are thinking they can just release faster without testing. That's not it.
Right.
You still need to have better tests, more comprehensive testing, and they should definitely be user experience focused, you know, not just on performance and functionality, but security.
Yeah.
People aren't going to go use applications that are not secure. I mean,
Right, but then with IoT devices, you're talking people are creeped out. If you're monitoring, you know, how often they're coming in and out of their house and
right.
you know, when they're using their cameras and
like with
whatnot,
Nest
that
and
can
all
be a
that
little
stuff.
creepy.
So
right?
A little bit creepy.
Right.
So sometimes you got to put stuff out there and see what happens. I suppose.
Yeah.
No,
But I think, you know, you hear about all these data breaches and how many people turn away from something because of that. So I think there's going to be a lot more focus on I do. My debit card number is.
Or we hear constantly the statistics about, you know, if a cell phone app doesn't open within 3 seconds,
Right.
people will stop using it.
I am
And
100% to blame on that. I fully agree on that.
Yeah, you go to a website, it doesn't load the first time. I'm not reloading that. I'm out.
It's amazing how bougie we've become with apps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like-
I mean,
I go as far as, you know, I mean, I know this isn't really, but even the downloading of, if it takes too long to download on the App Store, if the app is too large, I'm like, forget this.
Right.
Cancel it.
Or if it's asking for too many permissions.
That's another
too
one.
many permissions.
Never mind.
That is true.
All right. Well, let's move on. I know we're going a little longer than I anticipated here, but nothing bad with that. The next, I just wanted to touch on this last little bit of news and see what you guys think here is the fact that Atlassian was sold Capture for Jira to Zephyr. So we know Zephyr, Checkpoint Technologies here. We've been a partner with Zephyr for a while. They make Zephyr for Jira and Zephyr Enterprise. Make a couple other things.
Solutions.
Yeah, test management solution. What do you think about that?
We're also partners with Atlassian and Jira as well.
Thank you. So, correct. You know, I'm not really I don't really know that much about Capture for Jira, I'll be honest. So I don't know, how does that fit in with Capture for Jira versus Zephyr for Jira? Is there a difference? Is there...
Well, Capture, I think, and I've never actually used it, which is really bad to say out loud, but it's essentially, I would say, compared to a Snagit for people,
Sure.
you know, things like that when you're trying to clip it and put it in Confluence or in Jira. And so it's actually really interesting to me that Zephyr bought it, because I have some conspiracy theories.
Let's hear them. No, go ahead.
But I mean, Atlassian, you know.
As I open up another beer here.
It's pretty well known that Atlassian does so many great things on the development side and even the ops side, but they do not really cover QA or test management.
And they don't claim to
And they don't claim
cover
to,
it.
and they know that they have a lot of partners that do a good job with it and bring it in. Honestly, there's two theories I have. They're probably way out
we're
there.
gonna go there.
I know.
Okay.
I don't know.
All
Do
right.
I actually say this? I think so. Zephyr doesn't
can always
have
cut
like
it
like a sprinter or like a manual capture to automation tool, and I don't know if they might do something with that, or you know, maybe there's some sort of, hey, we're going to sell you this. Let's see what you can do with it. And let's see how
Right.
we'll buy you
Let's
back.
improve it and possibly buy it
It
back.
might just be as simple as they want better
want it to
capture, annotation, you know,
Right.
movie capture experience from
Yeah.
running manual test cases.
We have no
That-
idea. But I mean, I think for Zephyr it's a big deal because they can definitely make some cool stuff out of it.
It definitely gave them another nice little bit to their portfolio.
Do we know
for
if
sure.
it's going to be rolled into Zephyr or if it's going to be included with a
That's a
Zephyr
good
for
point.
Jira
I don't know.
license?
Is it
Yeah, I'm
going to be a
not sure.
standalone, or are they going to roll it in? I don't know. That's a good question.
I tried asking, I didn't get any answers.
Okay. All right. All right. So now let's move on to the next little segment. And I think in the future we'll probably have shorter stories and maybe a little bit more. But I just wanted to dive into those reports since it's the end of the year
Right.
type
Looking forward
stuff,
to
beginning a
2018.
new year type stuff. So next segment on is what's been released. What's recently been released that's worth kind of talking about. And the one thing I want to talk about was StormRunner Functional. So it's kind of the, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of the first release since the whole HPE Micro Focus spin merge
Yep.
kind of rolled out. I think just before that they released
They
the
were doing
StormRunner
beta.
Load. But
Well, they were also
StormRunner,
doing StormRunner Functional,
Okay.
and it was HPE as beta.
Okay,
So for very select customers and things.
Gotcha.
But it was officially released after the spin merge.
okay. So it's basically a SaaS solution. So I wanted to walk through some of what Micro Focus, I got to keep getting used to saying Micro Focus instead of HPE or HP, what they say that StormRunner Functional is and what it does, and just kind of get your thoughts on that. Sound good?
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so use powerful analytics to understand what needs to be tested, includes smart benchmarking, production monitoring systems, and industry data. Design and run exploratory manual testing sessions directly in StormRunner Functional. A rich integration stack that supports leading CI/CD tools, continuous integration, continuous delivery. And I'm assuming it would continuous deployment into that too. No, maybe not, since that's
It's
more
more
on
of
the
a right.
Okay.
Deploying test environments, yes.
Right, and then a full public API and SDK. Test on the latest browsers and operating systems using on-demand virtual labs. And then run your tests remotely from your existing tools. Upload your tests to SFR and create new tests in SRF. Sorry, I said that last one, SRF. Using our online script recorder. So anything to add to that? What are your thoughts on this?
Correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first cloud-based automation tool, though? I don't know that I've heard of another. Is there others?
Putting them on the spot.
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't know.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
It might be a smaller player.
Right. It's kind of neat. I mean, StormRunner came out about, a year, 2 years ago maybe now?
Something like that, yeah.
And, it's had some decent people
Traction.
taking on traction, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting because, you could do your functional testing, and apparently the scripts are very interchangeable and kind of like how U of T and LoadRunner used to be. But having it all in one place and having all the operating systems there and ready to go is pretty neat.
Right.
We'll see how it takes off. Good options.
Yeah.
Right.
They're supposed to have some sort of predictive analytics being built in, right? We read that.
Yeah.
Where it's supposed to help you be able to create your test cases based off of. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a promise. We'll see how well
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of brand new. I know there's not a whole lot we can really talk about here until we can really get our hands on it, but just wanted to bring it up. And then even less having our hands on it is the other one I wanted to talk about, Atlassian Stride. So that was kind of just recently announced. So basically, my understanding is Atlassian Stride will be replacing HipChat Cloud.
Correct.
And it's being called the Slack Killer, which I think is
funny.
Whatever. Yeah. But so HipChat Data Center will continue to serve that enterprise level, but the cloud's version is releasing.
And HipChat server is still going to be available, but Stride will never be available behind the firewall.
Correct. So I don't know. I've looked into Stride a little bit. I can't honestly tell a big differentiator between Stride and HipChat currently. I don't know if you guys have.
Well, I know it was calling out the meetings and stuff, and I said to Matt, well, you can do HipChat meetings and screen sharing.
Right.
And he made a good point that you have to do a video call first, right? What'd you say?
Unless
you have
unless
to
I
do
just
a
haven't
video
found a way
call
around
first.
it. You have to put your face up there on somebody's screen and then say, oh, I want to turn this into an actual screen share instead. It'd be nice to have something that was equivalent to just TeamViewer.
Right, and I think that's what they're going with Stride.
Built in.
We have not used Stride. We use HipChat quite often.
Yeah.
I just
Not
Googled this.
efficiently, but-
Apparently you can upgrade or convert your cloud stuff, HipChat stuff, into Stride.
Right, because I do think they're going to get rid of HipChat Cloud and they're going to force everyone off of it eventually. Because
that's my understanding as well.
We're actually on that, and I got that email. So.
Right, it makes sense. It's
Okay.
kind of two different groups of people.
Yep.
Good stuff.
That makes sense.
All right, so kind of next segment here is just real quick what we recommend, upcoming things taking place, as well as maybe something that just happened recently that we feel like is worth mentioning as well. One of the things here I wanted to mention, and this is going to be kind of right as this airs, but the Automation Guild, January 8th through 10th, completely online conference put on by Joe Colantonio. It's always amazing.
It's online. There's so much good information.
There's so many good speakers. If you are at all interested in automation or dealing with it, you got to check that out. I mean,
Joe's kind of like the spokesperson of automation. I was trying to think of like a good.
Yeah. So always, and actually, I think this past year he did the Perf Guild or something on performance testing as well. So I look forward to seeing how that one kind of takes off in 2018 as well. So we'll put a link in the description for that too if you don't already know about it, but I'm sure you probably do. I threw this one in here. I thought it was a great webinar that I watched just recently. It's a practical guide to testing in DevOps. So again, there'll be a link in the description for that. There's going to be a really great DevOps SIG webinar put on by Vivid, which is basically the user group that supports the Micro Focus tools. That's January 17th, so that's definitely worth checking out. And then actually here at Checkpoint Technologies, we're going to be putting on a webinar, How to Measure Risk Analysis. That's going to be January 31st. There'll be a registration in the description below as well. So that's about it, guys. You guys made it through your first episode. Still got beer left. That's impressive.
I don't have much.
Or disappointing. I'm not sure which one it is.
I thought about chugging a couple of them at one point, and then I realized that'd be on video.
Well, you're done now, so you can chug all you want.
Sip of your beer the whole
No, I drank a whole beer and poured another one.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I missed that.
You didn't hear me open it up?
Feel free to drink that mild.
So anyways, I did want to throw out, so for future...
So you should end it.
So for future episodes, I wanted to throw out, if you want to tweet us at hashtag testing happy hour or email us at the email found below, anything that you think we should discuss, topics you want us to touch on, get our opinions on, we'd love to hear it, and we'll address it in the next one, or even
Beer
suggestions
sipping?
I was about to say,
vodka.
or
really
suggestions
like
to our next theme for our drinking.
It all tastes like hairspray.
So again, with that, I'm Brent Jenkins, Matt Kubal, Sneha Cruz. Thank you for joining us at the Software Testing
Thank you.
Happy Hour,
Thank you.
and have a great day.
Cheers.